An arsonist suspect is detained in connection to a fire in the West Hills of Los Angeles County. This as crews work to battle several other incidents nearby. The Los Angeles Police Department saying they are investigating the Kenneth fire that sparked Thursday afternoon as arson. This after detaining a suspect in the West Hills and Hidden Hills area. A witness saying to Fox News that first responders were quick to the scene as authorities issued mandatory evacuation orders from the area.
Well, there have been many arson suspects who have been arrested, and there's only been one who has been tied to a major fire, potentially as a suspect tied to starting the Kenneth fire in West Hills, which is a suburb of Los Angeles County. Now, the arrest of this arson suspect amid these devastating fires in Los Angeles has raised concerns about some of the flaws within these sanctuary laws. Now, sanctuary laws, of course, come from a good place. The idea is to protect migrants who haven't done anything wrong. They might be in the country illegally, but oftentimes it's out of desperation. Oftentimes it's an attempt to protect people, especially if they're victims of crime and they need help from the authorities, but feel discouraged from reporting the crime or seeking help from the authorities because they're worried about getting deported. So there are wonderful elements of sanctuary laws, and I want to be clear about that. But there is an oversight here, there is an issue here. And I think the arrest of this one arson suspect really helps to clarify what those issues are. So there are several fires happening simultaneously in Los Angeles. It's important to understand that. It's not one major wildfire, it's several major wildfires. There's the Pacific Palisades fire, there's the Altadena fire, and then there's the Kenneth fire in West Hills. Now, firefighters and police have already determined that the Kenneth fire specifically was deliberately set. They believe that an arsonist set that fire intentionally. Now, according to CAL FIRE, the Kenneth fire covered about 1,052 acres, straddling Los Angeles and Ventura counties before it was fully contained, luckily on January 12th. Now, an arson suspect was arrested near the Kenneth fire in Woodland Hills, California. Residents say a man was riding around on a bicycle carrying a large blowtorch, trying to set multiple old Christmas trees and garbage cans on fire. Now, at that point, when the residents in this, by the way, this is like a hilly residential neighborhood, okay? So why is this guy there with a blowtorch? Look, why is he trying to light Christmas trees on fire? Obviously, with the high winds and dry conditions, the residents of this community saw him as a massive threat. And so they proceed to do a citizen's arrest. So let's take a look at this photo. It's a screenshot from surveillance footage of the arson suspect. And if you look at the image, he's holding the blowtorch, the yellow blowtorch in one hand. And in the other hand, you see him holding something, that's the torch head. According to one resident who spoke to a local Fox affiliate, he was very like, I can't stop, I can't stop. I'm not putting this down, I'm doing this. And he was very focused on moving forward with the blowtorch, and we're like, we can't be doing that right now. So that same resident also told a local Fox affiliate, Fox 11, that the man appeared to be high on something. That was his perspective or what he believed was going on. And at that point, the residents decided to use zip ties and do a citizen's arrest until the authorities showed up. So that is what you're seeing in this still frame from the surveillance footage of the individual getting arrested. Now, I want to be clear in noting that at this moment, he is a suspect, okay? There is, at this moment, like no confirmation that he is the one who started the Kenneth fire. I want to be clear. And unfortunately, even though there is witness testimony and even though he was carrying a freaking blowtorch in a residential neighborhood, allegedly lighting Christmas trees and garbage cans on fire, the Los Angeles Police Department says that there's no probable cause to charge him with arson. But since this fire straddled LA County and Ventura County, Ventura County officials and police are investigating this as a potential arson suspect. Okay, they're not buying that there's no probable cause. They believe there is probable cause because guess what? There is probable cause. So they're going to continue investigating this as a potential arson suspect and see if there's any indication, any evidence tying him to the intentional start of the Kenneth fire. Now, there's more details here that are interesting. Let me first give you the statement from Dominique Choi. He's the LA Police Department Divisional Chief. And here's what he said in regard to the arson charges or lack of arson charges here. He says, after the interview and additional investigative steps, looking at some additional evidence that was present, they made the determination that there was not enough probable cause to arrest this person on arson or even suspicion of arson. Okay, that's what they believe. But he does remain detained due to a probation violation because it turns out that this guy is a convicted felon who's in the country illegally. In fact, we've learned quite a bit about him since his arrest. His name is Juan Manuel Sierra-Leyva. He also goes by a bunch of other names, including Juan Manuel Sierra-Leyva, Juan Leyva moniker, and Juan Sierra. He is a Mexican national who's been in the country illegally since 2016, and he has a very lengthy criminal record. So ICE actually released a statement about him following the citizen's arrest. Sierra has had multiple encounters with law enforcement from November of 2016 to present for a variety of charges and was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon on October 10th of 2023 in Van Nuys, California. Van Nuys is a community within the San Fernando Valley in LA County, okay? So he's been arrested more than a dozen times. Bill Manoogian, a reporter, listed some of the things that he's been arrested of. So you're taking a look at that list right now. That includes felony drug trafficking, threatening crime with intent to terrorize, robbery, which is different from burglary. Burglary is when someone breaks into your car or into your property to steal. Robbery is when an individual is confronted, usually with a weapon, usually with some sort of threat in order to be stolen from. And he was, as ICE put it, convicted of assault with a deadly weapon. Now, as a result, ICE wrote in their press release that Sierra was arrested by the LAPD January 10th on a felony probation violation. So that was what he was arrested for after the citizen's arrest. Officers with US Immigration and Customs Enforcement and removal operations placed an immigration detainer on Sierra January 12th. So they, after the local authorities deal with him, they want to be able to detain him. ICE wants to be able to detain him and deal with a possible deportation. But that might be a difficult thing to do because they're worried that local officials in California and particularly in Los Angeles will essentially stand in the way and prevent him from being turned over to ICE and then potentially deported. So Bill Manoogian spoke to ICE about it and reported, quote, "I'm told ICE will place a detainer request on him with the LA County Sheriff's Department, but they do not expect it to be honored due to California's sanctuary state law." Now, if you're not paying close attention to how sanctuary laws work, you might think that's ridiculous. That's not what sanctuary laws are all about. And I don't blame anyone who doesn't know about this because I myself didn't know about this until fairly recently. But there are certain areas of sanctuary laws that I think need to be recalibrated. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily totally throw sanctuary laws out, because I do think it's important to protect people, even if they are, even if they have undocumented status. They should be able to go to the authorities if they have been victimized by crime without fear of being deported. That is my favorite part of sanctuary laws, and I think that that should stay in place. However, unfortunately, the way these laws are written prevent local authorities from ever communicating with federal authorities, even when an undocumented immigrant commits serious crimes. And as a result of that, they never end up getting deported, even if they're convicted of serious crimes, including assault with a deadly weapon. So the Los Angeles City Council, for instance, adopted a sanctuary city ordinance last November that prohibits the use of city resources in immigration enforcement, including cooperating with federal immigration agents. It would also prohibit Los Angeles officials and agencies from directly or indirectly sharing data with immigration authorities. In addition to that, the city council passed this motion unanimously. Every single city council member voted in favor of this to codify the protective measures after city attorney Heidi Feldson Soto and Mayor Karen Bass expedited the draft ordinance. I don't think policy like this should ever be expedited. I think policy like this should be debated. I think they should carefully read it and understand, what the potential flaws in the way the policy is written are. They didn't do that here. In addition to that, newly appointed Los Angeles Police Department Chief Jim McDonnell has said that the department would not engage in immigration enforcement. He has remained steadfast in that position. So again, just to repeat myself, while these sanctuary laws are passed with the best of intentions, with the intentions of protecting migrants who haven't committed any serious crimes outside of being in the country illegally, they also tend to protect repeat criminals who end up terrorizing communities, like this guy who's been arrested literally dozens of times and was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon. After he serves his time for that conviction, you would think he'd get deported, right? But that's not what happens because the local authorities are not allowed to work or cooperate with federal authorities, even in instances where the undocumented individual who has committed serious crimes has reason to be deported, to be quite frank with you. Like, why would we harbor criminals from other countries who are here illegally? I'm not in favor of that. And if that makes me a bad person, great. I'm very happy to be labeled a bad person. But we have our own homegrown bad guys, okay? We don't need to import bad guys from other countries. We also have sanctuary laws in California on a state level. So everything that I just shared with you is from Los Angeles, but California's sanctuary laws, known as SB 54, often stop local law enforcement from notifying the federal agency about a suspect's immigration status or when he may be released. Now, Newsom's office, Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, did what they do best. They lied and they claimed that, no, since Sierra was convicted of a felony in 2023, by the way, he's not protected by the state sanctuary laws. No, I mean, except he is, because he's still in the country. He was convicted in 2023. He's still in the country and he was caught by residents of a Woodland Hills neighborhood lighting trash cans and Christmas trees on fire as massive wildfires were devastating massive parts of Los Angeles County. So make it make sense, please. And look, I think because this story has gotten so much media attention, the sheriff's department has now released a statement to the LA Times saying that they do intend to hand Leyva over to ICE after they finish their investigation, after Ventura County Police finish their investigation. And I do want to be clear. Look, Newsom has really no interest in governing California. To me, that has been clear. His sight is set on becoming president. And everything that he has done, certainly over the last 2 years, makes that abundantly clear to me. So instead of dealing with the very real issues that we have within our state, let's say dealing with the issue of the chronically understaffed Los Angeles Fire Department, figuring out ways to take the insane amount of resources the state of California has because of the high taxes in California, taking that money and finding useful ways of spending it, hiring staff for the fire department, doing things like that. He has decided to pursue funding specifically to make California Trump-proof. That's how it's being reported. Let's take a look at this. This is a headline from Politico. Gavin Newsom and California Democrats reach $50 million deal to Trump-proof the state. The first of its kind agreement would fund litigation against the incoming White House and protect against a potential mass deportation of immigrants. Now let's look into this policy a little further. The deal includes $25 million Newsom had proposed for the State Department of Justice to fight the federal government in court shortly after Trump's reelection in November, plus $25 million more proposed by state senators or state Senate leaders to defend immigrants against deportation, detention, and wage theft. The $25 million proposed by the Senate would fund grants. Oh, would you look at this? for legal nonprofits. That's where all the money in California goes. It goes to nonprofits. So it'll go to nonprofits and immigration support centers. And look, overall, I am not 100% against sanctuary laws. I'm not 100% against protecting people, especially undocumented immigrants who have been part of the fabric of this country and this state for very, very long, for many, many years. I think they deserve protection. And I think they deserve a pathway to citizenship. But while I do not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, I certainly do not want to use our limited resources in harboring and protecting people who are here illegally and who have committed crimes dozens of times, who have been arrested dozens of times. And so this is a flaw in the system. I hope Democrats are open-minded enough to understand that people do not want to use their resources in protecting individuals like Leyva. And so they should write a provision to reform this law. But something tells me they're not going to do that because they're less interested in serving the people of California and way more interested in signaling their virtue and their disdain for Donald Trump. And that's part of the problem. The fury that's been directed toward Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, and Gavin Newsom isn't just about how they have mishandled and basically mishandled everything leading up to these devastating wildfires. It's years and years of them showing us where their priorities really lie. And Rick Caruso, who ran against Mayor Bass for the position of mayor in Los Angeles, is getting all this flack because he hired private firefighters to protect his business in the Pacific Palisades. But I actually think that it shows you something else. Rick Caruso saw the fire weather warnings and he immediately positioned these private firefighters where they needed to be in case a fire broke out near his business to protect his business. Why didn't Karen Bass do that? Why didn't Karen Bass take the precautionary measures to ensure that if a wildfire breaks out, which was likely considering the dry conditions, okay, considering the high winds, it was likely. I mean, we've been dealing with this in Los Angeles, in California for a long time. This is not a new thing. But rather than prepare and ensure that we are in the best position possible to immediately respond to fires if and when they break out, she decided to go on a trip to Ghana. And that's the issue. It's not just that she used taxpayer money to go see the president of another country get inaugurated. It's the fact that she made the decision to leave at a time when the city needed her the most. And her leaving also shows you that she underestimated what the fire weather could potentially do to this county. And that's a huge issue.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a young Turk.